Okay, multiplying complex numbers. We're going to 5i squared is just 5i times 5i. So whenever you have a quantity squared, it really means to just multiply it to itself. So 5i times 5i is 25i squared. Now, we're not quite finished yet because we know that the pattern is I equals I squared equals negative 1, I to the third equals negative I, and I to the fourth equals 1. So you got to keep that in mind because I squared is it really just negative 1. So we're going to substitute in for that. So that's 25 times negative 1, which is just negative 25. Okay. The second example, I have I times I times I, that's going to be I to the third. And then you also have negative 6 times 5, that's negative 30, times 5 is negative 150. Now, again, I don't want to leave it like this because I to the third is really negative I. So I can rewrite this as negative 150 times a negative I. Negative I times negative 150 is positive 150. So you have a negative times a negative, it turns up positive. Sorry, I forgot my I. So negative 150 times negative I is 150i. And then finally, multiplying here, you're going to distribute the 7i. Everyone hear how loud Mr. Meyer's classroom is? He has a sub today, so it's not his fault. 56i, 7 times 8, 7i times 8 is 56i. 7i times 5i is 35i squared. From there, again, I'm going to use this fact that I know that I squared equals negative 1. So I have to replace the I squared with negative 1. So that's negative 35. So when I rewrite this as, this is negative 35 plus 56i. There you go. Okay, lastly, the last one was a monomial times a binomial. So one term times two terms. In this case here, we have two terms times two terms. So this requires FOILing. And some of you guys are really fighting this and not wanting to get really good at FOILing, but you have to for the rest of your math career. So 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times negative 5 is negative 40i. 3i times 4 is 12i. And 3i times negative 5i is negative 15i squared. From there, I see that the middle terms are both I. So I get 32. I put those two together, I'm going to get negative 28i. Now this n1, again, I squared equals negative 1. So I could rewrite this 32 minus 28i minus a negative 15. A double negative, that might as well be positive, so that's adding. So this is 32 plus 15 minus 28i. Just put those together beside each other and I can see that that's now 47 minus 28i. So be careful at that end there. You end up with a double negative, turns positive when you're putting things together. Okay, lastly, again, the only thing difference about these two is the middle sign. All right, so we've done these before. This is really a difference. The only difference is the middle, and we're going to see what happens. So 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 4i is 28i. Now this is negative 4 times 7, so that's negative 28i. And then this would be negative 16 I times I, don't forget to do that, is I squared. A lot of students will forget to write that squared there. What we see in the middle is that they cancel out. Alright, so now you have 49 minus 16 I squared is negative 1. Again, you have to be careful here because you're always going to end up with this double negative in this situation. So when you're multiplying by the conjugate, alright, we've learned that term, this is always going to happen. You're going to end up with subtraction in the middle, and in this case, this I squared is always going to make this negative, so you end up with a double negative. So you just got to be careful. Put those two together and you get 65. And we're done. So two binomials, two complex numbers multiplied together ended up just being a whole number.